DC doesn't always get enough credit for its theater scene. In fact, the regional theater movement was born here 75 years ago, right at Arena Stage. I'm Maria Manuela Goyanes. I'm the artistic director of Woolly Mammoth Theater Company. At Woolly Mammoth, we use theater to give people experiences that they have never had before, and hopefully do it with a good amount of laughter thrown in. Brandon Jacobs Jenkins is a very important writer for Woolly Mammoth. Woolly Mammoth is rare in the American theater, but it feels exactly right in DC, a place where the smartest minds in the world converge to try to make things happen that have never been done before. This is the Tony Award. In 2022, I became a Tony-winning producer because of Woolly Mammoth's production of A Strange Loop. Let me tell you, that is not something my parents ever saw coming. Oh, hey! Growing up the daughter of immigrants, theater wasn't on my horizon. I was shy, believe it or not. I would hide in books. Before I got to Woolly, I did a lot of Shakespeare. And turns out, DC has many Shakespeare companies. There's the Folger Theater, built in 1932. Yay! Go up on the stage, come on the stage. Okay. It's the first replica in North America of an Elizabethan theater. And when he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, that all the world will be in love with night. The theater sits inside of the Folger Shakespeare Library, which is so much more than a library. 15-year-old Maria always geeks out when I am there because they have amazing editions of Shakespeare's folios. I mean, it's really cool. And a grimoire, which I had never heard of, but has like magic spells in it. And even a printing press. Oh, wow. I'm a first-generation Latina. I grew up going to the community center to do dance and gymnastics while my dad worked and my mom went to night school. So many theaters take over arts education in our communities, and they are second homes for these kids and families. Gala Hispanic does this with their Paso Nuevo program, in addition to all the amazing bilingual work they do on their stage. I think everyone knows DC as a government town, or for all the museums and Library of Congress, but it is definitely also a theater town. When I moved to DC in 2018, I was coming here to do exactly what I intended to do when I got into theater, to tell bold and courageous stories.
When a woman loves a man.
And there's no better place to do that than our nation's capital. I never imagined having a career in the performing arts, let alone be one of its leaders. Only in America is my story possible, and only in DC will you find such a diverse theater scene. From the leadership to the stage and everything in between, DC is setting the stage for the future of the American theater. That could only happen here in DC.
Creating while black means freedom. Creating while black means responsibility.
Preservation of culture, the celebration of culture, like loving who we are.
Molding the future in a way that honors our ancestors.
Creating while black is radical.
Parts of the population that won't embrace that because they don't understand it.
Black people everywhere are trying to make sense of what's happening to our communities.
What is the city becoming? They're pushing us out as much as possible, but despite gentrification, we're still here. We need to push back and fight back.
From the city that made me love you forever for it. Hope you celebrate every moment forever and know it. You made me what I am, you made me what I'm not. They gon' love you a little different when you at the top.
Creating While Black is the blueprint for the next level of art.
And I want the city to know that.
At Zuri, we believe stories are what make us human. They are the only force capable of changing the world. They shape cultures, build connections, and inspire movements. We craft narratives that matter.
I
a countless amount of guys who kind of found a niche in coaching as a way to be able to give back to this community.
I wanted to hang with the guys in the street. I wanted to be driving the Monte Carlos and deucing the quarters.
There's nothing like being surrounded by dozens of people just trying to push through.
I completed this goal that I've had, and it's changed my life in so many different ways. Everything it took to get there, and the people that you did it with.
Let us tell your story. It's 2025, and I feel like whatever progress this country has made to becoming a more perfect union is becoming undone. It seems fitting that this undoing would happen in D.C. The reason? D.C. is unapologetically black. The original chocolate city. D.C. has always been a paradoxical place. The nation's capital, the symbol of freedom and democracy, not just for U.S. citizens, but for the world. The story of America is incomplete. D.C. is a beautiful city because it represents the best of what America could be. People from all over the world come here with purpose and promise and filled with hope.
A place where the smartest minds in the world converge to try to make things happen that have never been done before.
A space that celebrates all the different parts of who I am, who my children are, who my family is. Most importantly, the norm is the world.
There are so many communities that live in harmony with one another here.
This is our heartbeat. Community, food, go-go.
I like that DC has something to be proud of, and it looked like that's what a bunch of people from our tribe produce. How can you not be inspired by that? This is DC authentic.
DC doesn't always get enough credit for its theater scene. In fact, the regional theater movement was born here 75 years ago, right at Arena Stage. I'm Maria Manuela Goyanes. I'm the artistic director of Woolly Mammoth Theater Company. At Woolly Mammoth, we use theater to give people experiences that they have never had before, and hopefully do it with a good amount of laughter thrown in. Brandon Jacobs Jenkins is a very important writer for Woolly Mammoth. Woolly Mammoth is rare in the American theater, but it feels exactly right in DC, a place where the smartest minds in the world converge to try to make things happen that have never been done before. This is the Tony Award. In 2022, I became a Tony-winning producer because of Woolly Mammoth's production of A Strange Loop. Let me tell you, that is not something my parents ever saw coming. Oh, hey! Growing up the daughter of immigrants, theater wasn't on my horizon. I was shy, believe it or not. I would hide in books. Before I got to Woolly, I did a lot of Shakespeare. And turns out, DC has many Shakespeare companies. There's the Folger Theater, built in 1932. Yay! Go up on the stage, come on the stage. Okay. It's the first replica in North America of an Elizabethan theater. And when he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, that all the world will be in love with night. The theater sits inside of the Folger Shakespeare Library, which is so much more than a library. 15-year-old Maria always geeks out when I am there because they have amazing editions of Shakespeare's folios. I mean, it's really cool. And a grimoire, which I had never heard of, but has like magic spells in it. And even a printing press. Oh, wow. I'm a first-generation Latina. I grew up going to the community center to do dance and gymnastics while my dad worked and my mom went to night school. So many theaters take over arts education in our communities, and they are second homes for these kids and families. Gala Hispanic does this with their Paso Nuevo program, in addition to all the amazing bilingual work they do on their stage. I think everyone knows DC as a government town, or for all the museums and Library of Congress, but it is definitely also a theater town. When I moved to DC in 2018, I was coming here to do exactly what I intended to do when I got into theater, to tell bold and courageous stories. And there's no better place to do that than our nation's capital.
Good evening. My name is Denise Rolark Barnes. I am publisher of the Washington Informer newspaper, and I am extremely honored to serve as your moderator for tonight's mayoral debate. This debate is presented by the District of Columbia's Fair Elections Program in partnership with the DC Office of Campaign Finance, and is designed to provide residents across the district with the opportunity to hear directly from you, the candidates seeking to lead our city. Tonight's discussion comes at an important time for Washington, D.C., as voters consider the future of our communities, our economy, public safety, education, and the overall direction of the district. We thank all of the candidates for being here and for their willingness to engage in this important conversation. Before we begin, I'd like to briefly review the format for tonight's debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute for opening statements, 45 seconds to respond to each question, 30 seconds for rebuttals or follow-ups, and 1 minute for closing statements. We will cover a range of topics important to district residents, including public safety, economic development, housing, education, and governance. We ask that all candidates respect the time limits and one another to ensure a fair and productive discussion. Now, let's meet the candidates for mayor of the District of Columbia. We're going in alphabetical order for those who are wondering about the lineup. So we will start with you, Ms. George.
Thank you. Good evening, DC voters. My name is Janice Lewis George. I am a proud third-generation Washingtonian, a proud product of DC Public Schools and Howard Law, and I am running for mayor to do what I've done as an organizer, what I've done as an attorney, and what I've done for the last 6 years as a council member, and that's put people first. This election asks a simple question. Who do you trust to show up for all of our residents in all 8 wards in this city? Who do you trust to address the affordability crisis? I have been on the front lines fighting against rent hikes against our seniors and our tenants. Who do you trust to stand up to Trump and this administration? I have been on the streets with our families, and I've been walking the halls of Congress myself. Who do you trust to just make sure basic government services work for you? I help reform clean collections and safe routes to school. And so I submit to you today that this election is about electing a mayor who is going to fight back for DC residents and make sure your government is working for you. I look forward to the conversation tonight and to having your vote on June 16th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Goodweather.
Good evening, Washington, D.C. I'm running for mayor because we need to expect more from our city and our city government. I've spent the past 30 years in business, helping build neighborhoods here in the city and helping nonprofits and universities further their mission. My vision for our city and my top priority is creating a city that is affordable. That means having every child receive an outstanding education regardless of their needs. In a city that is truly safe, not just feels safe. Our economy is down 8.5%. I served as United States Army officer. I am now hearing the call again to serve, and I will serve our city because I want to serve you as DC residents, because all of us need to expect more.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Good afternoon, Washington, D.C. residents. My name is Ernest Johnson. I am a native Washingtonian, third generation. I am a Harvard-educated leader with a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics from the University of Maryland. I had the privilege of managing Marion Barry's first mayoral campaign, along with Ivanhoe Donaldson and Delano Lewis. The thing that I want to address this evening is the high cost of utilities, a $2 billion lead pipe replacement program, the $1.3 billion RFK redevelopment deal, the people who agreed to this, and how we need to renegotiate it. The problems that we have in our public safety are serious problems, addressing the MPD shortage, as well as we have a small road group that needs to be addressed. To be mayor of the District of Columbia, you have to have a certain amount of public courage, and that's what this position calls for.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. McDuffie.
Thank you. I'm Kenya McDuffie, and I grew up in Washington, D.C., in Northeast, small neighborhood called Stronghold, in the home where my grandparents bought when they were looking for the same thing that families are looking for today: safe neighborhood, a solid opportunity to succeed in our nation's capital. I didn't get into politics right away. In fact, I didn't even apply to college when I graduated from high school at Jackson Reed, formerly Woodrow Wilson. I worked. I carried mail to the United States Postal Service. Eventually, though, I saved up, went to UDC, Howard University, became the first male in my family to graduate from college. I went on to be a prosecutor to fight a crime and deliver justice for victims. I went on to work in President Obama's Civil Rights Division, and for the last 13 years, I've been working on the council delivering for you. I'm running because this city needs leadership right now that is going to keep people safe. It needs leadership that's going to make this city more affordable and more opportunity rich, and I'm running to make sure that we can do that together.
Thank you, Mr. McDuffie. Mr. Orange.
Good evening, D.C. My name is Vincent Orange, and I am an attorney and a certified public accountant with a proven public service record. I come to you with degrees in taxation, law, business, and communications. I'm a former Ward 5 council member, at-large council member, and I also served as the D.C. Democratic National Committee man during the Obama years. I've been credited with jumpstarting economic development, school modernization, as well as recreation centers modernization in the District of Columbia. You can feel my delivery when you go to Home Depot, when you go to Giant, when you go to Union Market. And all the kids can feel it when they go to McKinney Technology High School. And any of you that are working, I'm the one that brought us the minimum wage. Start at $15. I put the index in there, and it will be $18.40 on this July 1. I also, 21 years ago, established DC Emancipation Day as the only public holiday. I'm Vincent Orange, and I ask for your vote on June 16th. Rank me #1. But if I can't be #1, I'll take #2. Thank you very much. Vincent Orange, running for mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Orange. Ms. Sempath.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rini Sampath, and I jumped into this race because I want the Democratic Party to be the party of execution. And for too long in DC, that hasn't happened. I'm a cybersecurity director today, and I've got a technology background, which I'm using to show DC residents that it's possible for DC government to actually execute on its municipal promises. For one, we have a dysfunctional 311 system. An elected official in my neighborhood told me it took 3 years to fix one ADA non-compliant sidewalk. And another example, one of my friend's friends died of cardiac arrest because OUC did not code his call correctly. That's unacceptable. It takes 13 months on average to fill one affordable housing unit in this city. That's unacceptable. We need a DC government that actually executes on its promises. The role of the mayor is not that of a legislator, it's that of a CEO, it's that of someone who has operational expertise, and I'm that person for the job. Thank you.
Alrighty, and Ms. Solomon.
Hello, DC. My name is Hope Solomon. I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C. in Burleith, and I currently live in DuPont Circle. I'm a proud product of the D.C. public school system, and from there I stayed and went to Georgetown University, both undergrad and graduate, and I got a second master's from Harvard University. Proud to say DCPS to Ivy League. From there, I worked over 17 years in national security, navigating my way through Department of Defense, FBI, and Homeland Security. And then in July, I was doged by Elon Musk. But what I'm most proud of is that I was raised in my family's small business in DC. They started that in 1977. If there's one thing about being raised in a small business, you learn all the things, fighting the rats, trying to get a permit, and you learn where the city works for you, and you learn where the city doesn't work for you. And so when this race was shaping up, and I heard the candidates with the promises and the ideas, and it all sounded the same. So I am Hope Solomon, and I'm running for mayor, and I hope to make change.
Thank you very much. We're going to start with the topic of public safety. And so, Ms. George, I'll start with you. What is your specific plan in the first 100 days of your term, should you win, to reduce violent crime in the district, and how will you measure success?
Thank you.
And remember, 45 seconds for this.
Thank you. As a former prosecutor, I'm actually one of the only candidates who actually worked in D.C. Superior Court every day prosecuting some of the most serious crimes. For me, I understand just how important it is for us to do enforcement, intervention, and prevention work at the same time. And for me, every agency under my administration is going to be charged with public safety. And what that means is for our officers, we're going to make sure they're fully funded, but we're also going to make sure they're not doing responsibilities they don't need to do. So we're going to empower our crisis responders to respond to mental health crisis, and we're going to empower DPW and DDOT to do traffic enforcement. It means we're going to do intervention work with our Office of Neighborhood Safety Engagement, and it also means that we're going to do prevention work, like providing basic jobs and training and access to opportunity, which also prevent crime.
Thank you. Mr. Goodweather.
First thing we're going to do is ensure a fully staffed Metropolitan Police Department. We are at roughly 3,100 officers today, while fully staffed is about 5,000. The cost of that, which affects affordability in a city, it actually costs more to have a less fully staffed MPD. Number one. Number two is we are going to start working on the root causes of a lot of crime, which is poverty. One of the first things I'm going to do as mayor is create a citywide civic corps and workforce development program so that everyone has the opportunity to succeed in our city. And we are going to address the mental health of every DC resident. The metric for success is watching every DC resident succeed.
Mr. Johnson.
Public safety is very important, and the reason that we're in the position that we're in is because of the legislation and the leadership that has been provided to the city for the last decade. So we cannot revisit those old methods of addressing problems without addressing the actual issues. This is in terms of the violence interpreters. We have a problem in that area. I want to readdress that. We also have a problem with our youth that are going into different neighborhoods, and we need to address that as well. But it's the grip that the lobbyists and the developers have on the city.
Thank you,
that
Mr.
we really
Johnson.
need to address.
Mr. McDuffie?
We're going to do three things: accountability, prevention, and opportunity. We're going to make sure that we hold criminals accountable, especially violent criminals. And we're going to do it swiftly and certainly. And we're going to make sure that we staff up the Metropolitan Police Department to the levels that it needs so that we can both cut overtime and boost morale right now in a department that's been depleted, especially when council members said that they wanted to divest from the police department. We're going to expand opportunity by building on the Neighborhood Engagement and Chief Results Act, the NEAR Act that I authored, to make sure that we're consolidating the violence interruption work that's already happening, especially where it's working well. And then we're going to expand opportunity in communities where youth are starving for more programming. We're going to show up for youth like no mayor has ever done before.
Mr. Orange.
First thing is we're going to establish that public safety and justice goes hand in hand. And we're going to get away from what the DC Council started as defunding the police. Not only did they defund the police and kept it at 3,100, but they continue to keep 4,500 officers in the budget. So one, we need to know what happened to those 1,400 FTEs. I'm going to bring those 1,400 back, and they're going to be assigned to foot patrol, bike patrol, and community control. They will be in the neighborhoods like we had once before, and making sure they become a part of the community. We will not over-police, because I will be there holding the officers and the new chief that I bring in up to my standards of accountability and being accommodated to the citizens, be accommodating to the citizens of the District of Columbia.
Ms. Sampath?
This is a tense topic for all of DC. We have to recognize there's human lives behind this. A 5-year-old was shot while playing in their front yard in Northwest DC just this past week. It's unacceptable that this is the state of our city despite crime actually falling. So what I'm going to do is make sure that the $75 million that's being spent in overtime by MPD is reinvested in our communities towards diversion programs, legal aid, all of the different safety programs that make sure incarceration isn't the consistent option when we talk about public safety. Incarceration is expensive. We have to focus on preventative programs. And while we support our law enforcement, we have to think about all the ways in which we're going to make sure kids have jobs, they have support systems, and have touch points from our government.
Ms. Solomon.
So fully fund the police department, and these are humans, and when you work people overtime, morale is very low. And I remember a time in the city growing up in my neighborhood when you would walk around and you knew the police, and there was community policing, and you knew who to go to, and they knew your family, and they knew the store owners, and we need to get back to that, but that's education and training. That's what we need to fund.
Okay, I asked a two-part question, and now I want the answer to the second part. So I'm going to start with you, Ms. Solomon. How will you measure success?
Success to me is when you walk out on the street and you feel safe. It's with data, that's part of it, but it's also being a resident and you open your door and you're walking out and you don't feel like your car is going to get broken into or you're scared to walk down the street and get profiled. So our youth, we need training in the police force. Our youth need to feel safe. We as store owners need to feel safe. And as a store owner, we're dealing with this all the time. We have turnover with officers, we build relationships, and then they switch them out, and they're burnt out. So when I think about the community policing aspect is paramount.
I'm going to go back. Go ahead, Ms. Sampath.
We have 3 times the national average for incarceration of young people in the city, and that's actually the first statistic that I'm going to ardently tackle. 89% of those incarcerated are Black boys and girls, and that's even more unacceptable. And so for me, we need to make sure the school to prison pipeline in DC ends. This is a long-term metric, but it's a compassionate and human-centered metric. So we're going to make sure the Marion Barry Youth Summer Employment Program is year-round, that young people have jobs that are meaningful in our departments and agencies, and we're going to make sure there's school counselors in every single school in DC, and we're going to make sure that people have a real opportunity in this city. So we're not worried about violence that's perpetuated by anyone, especially not the people we should be caring for the most.
Mr. Orange.
Yeah, when you talk about how can you measure it, in an Orange administration, it's going to be prevention when possible, enforcement when necessary, but opportunity always. Public safety will be there to protect us in our neighborhoods, when we go to work, when we go to our jobs, but it will also protect economic development. We cannot have folks going to Nats Park and getting carjacked. We cannot have folks walking down the street and going to a nice restaurant and get shot. So that's going to be the measuring point. Is the additional 1,400 officers that I'm going to bring back without raising taxes, because it's already budgeted for, will they become ingrained into our community and provide protection from A to Z? Economic development, public safety in our schools, public safety in our daily lives, public safety in addressing the issues here in the District of Columbia, and stop President Trump from coming in, because we will have the officers.
Mr. McDuffie.
Government should be an open book. And that means making sure that there are public accountability dashboards for everything that we do. As mayor, I'm going to make sure that that happens. Using technology so that government is an open book, so you see exactly how your tax dollars are being spent. And when it comes to safety, I know that safety looks different and feels different in different neighborhoods. So we're going to measure it with data that you can see without having to file a FOIA request. We're also going to test it with the field test. We're going to show up to see how people feel in their own communities. We're going to show up and make sure that opportunity reaches those communities that have been plagued historically by crime and violence, to make sure that they understand what safety looks like and feels like. And that's how you measure it in real time. Data, but also showing up.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, data is very important, but the actual dealing with our young people is also important. I'm going to hire 3,000 of them to the Mayor's Youth Beautification Program because DC is entirely too dirty. Our Department of Behavioral Health has a budget between $600 and $800 million. It has 1,500 FTEs. Most of that budget is spent operating our major mental health department at St. Elizabeth. But they have 9,000 contract employees, and I'm not too sure that they're being deployed in the best manner. But our young people, as well as our community, needs to know that they have a mayor who really has their back, who is really standing up for them and able to hold people accountable. What we do not have in D.C. now is accountability.
Mr. Goodweather.
I keep hearing these statistics about how crime is going down, and I don't think that gives much comfort to the 7 people that were killed last week in 5 days, and or the 5-year-old that was shot earlier this week. My metric of success is when I can walk down Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue Southeast and visit a restaurant and not think about my safety, and do so with my family. And quality of life crime. As my wife says, being able to go to CVS and not have to ask somebody to get deodorant.
Ms. George, thank you. Thank you. Ms. George.
Thank you. On day one, I'm going to, in cooperation with MPD and ICE, and I'm doing so because we need to rebuild trust with our communities, and we need to rebuild trust with the police department. And as we do that and we start to rebuild trust, we're going to base our metrics on looking at first with our young people, absenteeism numbers, where we have a chronic absenteeism problem. And we're going to look at our school's numbers and see if absenteeism is going down as I implement home visiting as a strategy. For officers, we're going to look at case closures for officers, because swift and certain prosecution means cases are actually being investigated and closed. We're also going to look at retention numbers for officers, and we're going to make sure that those metrics are being met, and we're going to have a new police chief who's going to ensure that. And in intervention, we're going to look at our violence interruption programs and interrupters and see how many high-risk individuals, families, and people they have touched, and how many, and what the outcomes were of those on a monthly basis. And that's how we're going to make sure those metrics are being met, and that everyone understands under my administration that the safety of every DC resident is a non-negotiable.
Thank you, Ms. George. I don't want to move away from this too quickly, because there are a lot of community organizations that are really working hard to address violence in our communities, or violence prevention. I want to get a sense, and you can make this a short answer, hopefully. You know, what role do you think community-based organizations actually play? And then how would you fund the sustainability of some of these organizations so that they're not struggling themselves to keep their doors open? Ms. George, any thoughts about that?
Absolutely. I've been, Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement has been a great partner for me in Ward 4. As well as the Office of Attorney General. We had violence interruptions through the CURE program, as well as Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And what they did was come out and be real community partners. They built relationships in our neighborhoods. They brought jobs to the community. They brought food and nutrition and support for families to the community. And I believe in the work that our violence interruptions have been doing. And I just think they need support with making sure they can be effective. And so that's why metrics is going to be important, and monthly reporting is going to be important. And we're going to fund that through the Office of Neighborhood and Safety and Engagement, and make sure that they get the funds they need. And we're not going to do grants that are minimal grants that allow them to not actually only put on one cookout, right? That's not enough for them to be effective. And we're also not going to base it on a year to year. They need to know that they have this grant for 3 years so they can plan accordingly and they can have staff retention.
Thank you, Ms. George. Your thoughts?
I think that there's a lot of organizations that are working very hard, and what we are seeing, though, in the reality in Washington D.C. is that not all of these programs, not all of these organizations are seeing the results that we want. If the metric is purely violence interruption and what we are talking about today, it's not working very well. So part of the funding for these organizations, which we need to partner with, is, when I'm mayor, looking at the budget and taking a look at what programs are effective, what organizations are effective, and the ones that are not, they're going to be cut. The ones that are, we are going to utilize more of.
Mr. Johnson?
I want our violence interrupters to graduate from the program. I think utilizing people returning from prison is a good idea, but it's not a long-term career. Anytime you've been incarcerated for a long period, there is a level of trauma. And as well, our community dealing with violence, even though violence is down, we're still dealing with the trauma of the violence. So those things need to be addressed. The DC jail, DC YRS, our youth facilities, too much violence going on there. We need better management there. In terms of money, all we need to do is to audit some of these developers. It's enough waste, fraud, and abuse in the District of Columbia. We do not need to raise taxes. And all of these things we need to address have been going on for decades.
Mr. McDuffie.
Safety is going to be my #1 priority as your next mayor. We want to make sure that people feel safe and actually are safe in every community across the District of Columbia. People are talking about the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement and Cure Violence. I actually authored the Neighborhood Engagement to Achieve Results Act that ushered in a public health-based approach to crime prevention and intervention to make sure that we are treating violence like the epidemic that it is. And there's also a provision in the NEAR Act that allows the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement to raise philanthropic dollars. We're going to use government resources and prioritize them so that they reach every community, particularly those that are plagued by historic levels of violence, but we're also going to partner with the philanthropy to make sure we train up our community violence interrupters to do the work that we know is absolutely essential to support law enforcement, but also support community.
Thank you, Mr. Orange.
Well, first and foremost, violence is not an epidemic. An epidemic is COVID. We do not have an epidemic of violence in the District of Columbia. We have criminal activity that we need to address, yes. And I'm going to go directly to our teenagers and our returning citizens. I'm going to let the teenagers that are graduating from high school know that they can go to the University of District of Columbia tuition free. I'm going to let them know that every agency under my control will have a youth apprenticeship program and that they can come in entry-level positions and they can get health benefits, retirement benefits, and entry-level jobs. And in addition to that, I'm going to really fund and work with my program called Incarceration to Incorporation and allow returning citizens to sell products through the CBE program back to the government. That's how you address crime, by making sure the dollars in education circulates in those communities.
Ms. Sampath.
In our city, we have some fantastic organizations, Bread for City, Peace for DC. In fact, Priest for DC is the one who enlightened me that most of the gun violence that happens in our city is based on identifiably 500 individuals. I mean, some of the work that these organizations do is so remarkable, but at the same time, we can't forget that there is a lot of waste and a lot of kickback schemes in our cities. And unfortunately, the Violence Interrupters Program, while well-intentioned, has had $400,000 used by one contractor on personal trips and expenses. And this is the type of fraud that we need to end across DC government, because otherwise we have a culture in DC government that continues to reward those who, frankly, don't actually care about our communities.
Ms. Solomon.
You asked how we're going to pay for it, and here's my answer. I have a lot of experience working with our business improvement district, where my family business is located, and there are bids throughout the entire District of Columbia. There's very little oversight over those budgets, and there's millions of dollars spread out through the city. They are obligated to put some money in for safety. Is it a check the box sort of thing? That's my question. But if we had oversight that earmarked a percentage, 50%, if I'm your mayor, out of those millions of dollars will go to funding. So there's your answer on how I would fund.
So speaking of funding, I'm going to jump now to economic development and budget question. Because as you know, the district is facing some real fiscal pressures. And when you talk about oversight, there's oversight that we experience because we are a district of Columbia and not a state. So with that, as you talk about your budget, the first budget that you would have to create as mayor, what are some of the things that you would cut, what would you protect, or what would you grow?
Okay, so here's it to me?
Yes.
Okay, so here's how I'm going to answer that. We need revenue coming into our city. So yes, there's a prioritization. Safety, education, affordability, paramount. But when I look at how we get these revenue streams is what you're talking about, it's day one talking to the businesses that didn't want to come into our city that crossed the river. Why did they not come into our city? And it goes back to safety, parking enforcement, crime. We need to have those conversations. We need to grow DC. So that's how I want to bring revenue into the city, and I want those conversations starting day one.
Ms. Sampath?
Unfortunately, I think the mismanagement by a lot of the career politicians in our city has led us to the point that we are having to cut the pay equity fund. We're having to slash social safety net programs that so many of us deeply care about. And the best way to attack this problem is, one, cut the fraud that I was mentioning early on, that we need to make sure every single agency in DC is actually high performing. We know the majority overspent on their budgets previously, so we need to get them up to par. Secondly, the CFO is sitting on $180 million today because of the decoupling decision. That's another pot of money that we should be actively pursuing. And lastly, it's about attracting the business to grow our tax revenue. That's why I'm in opposition to any kind of business activity tax that would effectively drive businesses away from our city, and those are a few ways in which we can take care of that.
Mr. Orange?
Yes, first and foremost, we do not have a money problem. We have a management problem. We are a $22 billion government. Of that $22 billion, $11.7 billion is generated from DC residents. First thing I'm going to do is establish a revenue alignment commission. Column number 1, all the dollars come in. Column number 2, what are the intended purposes of those dollars? Column number 3, are the dollars being spent according to the intended purpose? Column number 4, show me the surpluses. And I believe there are a lot of surpluses. The traffic cameras generate so much money, it exceeds the Vision Zero cost. Our paid family leave, it exceeds paid family leave. We're going to track all those dollars, get that surplus, and then apply it back into the community. Let those dollars circulate in the District of Columbia community.
Thank you, Mr. Orange. Mr. McDuffie?
Yeah, we're going to make sure that we are addressing the real critical affordability issues that residents across our city are experiencing right now. We're going to do that by growing our economy with guardrails. We're going to focus on bringing new businesses and new people into the District of Columbia. And we're going to do that by making government work better, faster. We're going to make sure we prioritize building the housing across incomes that everybody needs and deserves in the District of Columbia. And we're going to do that by cutting the time it takes to build and cutting the cost it takes to build affordable units of housing in the District of Columbia. We're going to allow for more business starts in the District of Columbia by creating a fast lane so you can start a business in 30 days or less. We're not going to grow our economy by focusing on government growth, especially with a hostile federal government that doesn't believe that DC can manage its own funding. I know that we can, because I've been in the room when we've been negotiating those types of things. I'm going to make sure that we are protecting our residents and making this city more affordable for everybody.
Mr. Johnson?
We have, in the last decade, $20 billion in economic development. Our money is going to people who do not live in this city. The developers, the lobbyists, the special interests, they have a grip on our finances, and we have to begin to hold people accountable. They're not hiring DC residents. They're not agreeing to affordable housing. Well, they agree to affordable housing, but they don't do affordable housing. And this is where you need a mayor that holds people accountable. These are things that have been going on for decades. We need to end it now. Everyone in here, you can just look in your own pocket and kind of see what's going on. You know what's going on in your neighborhood. So we need to be realistic. I'm not just talking about things that you want to hear. I'm talking about serious budget changes.
Mr. Goodweather?
Our spending has gone up 70% in about 6-7 years, while my colleagues on the council have been a big part of that spending increases in our economy is down 8.5% year over year. I don't look at budgets as I'm going to cut this or cut that, or I'm going to allocate more dollars to that. We have to, that is what put us into this situation now. When I look at a budget, I take a look at it comprehensively, go line item by line item, and see what is effective and what is not effective. I will say, as a small business owner, that DC makes it exceedingly hard to succeed here in the city. The biggest thing, one of the biggest things that I'm going to do is just make it easier to do business and completely revamp the permitting and licensing process here in our city.
Thank you, Ms. George.
Thank you. I believe budgets are moral documents, and we as a city say where our values are by how we spend our money. And so the thing I'm going to cut is waste, fraud, and corruption and inefficient spending. And we are going to gain more money by leveraging our federal dollars. We're not giving $34 million back to HUD, for example, or leaving $60 million on the table under the Inflation Reduction Act that we're given. we're going to make sure that we are able to, in addition to that, have efficient spending within our agencies. For example, in our health budget, we could save like 5 to 6% by doing smart budgeting like Maryland has and creating what could be a real value-based health system and reduce our health costs. We're also not going to be putting forth bad deals like the sports betting deal that cost us millions of dollars that my colleague Mr. McDuffie oversaw.
Mayor, you said we have a rebuttal?
You do, yes.
Yes, I want to say that the DC government is actually run well in terms of balancing our budgets. We've been balancing our budgets ever since we got rid of the control board. The problem here is that now we've gotten to this game of funding programs with non-recurring revenues. And that's the reason why the traffic cameras are supporting programs. That's the reason why the paid family leave is supporting programs. That's the reason why the FTEs from the police department are supporting programs. We got to get back to the intended purposes of the revenue. And if you don't have a revenue source, it shouldn't be funded.
Thank you. Does anybody else? Sure, I'll start with you, Ms. Sempat.
I think this is why we've been talking about everything as an execution problem. We heard about permitting today. Our team just launched today a small business permitting concierge. You can go on our website. It's riniformayor.com, RINIformayor.com/smallbiz. And we redesigned the entire permitting experience so you can, as a small business owner, actually navigate the various agencies that are out there and make it a lot more easy to flow through. And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to bring this type of technology and creative thinking to make government a lot more easy to navigate.
Mr. Goodweather, I think your hand was up.
I mean, Vincent, yes, we've balanced our budget because that's required by law, right? Our budget is current fiscal year plus the next 3 years. If we don't, then we invite more federal intervention. It's called in the District of Columbia 7 deadly sins, and if we breach any of them under the Home Rule Act, then a financial control board automatically comes back in, and then President Trump can appoint the overseers. So that is not necessarily the baseline.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Ms. Solomon, sure.
But I also want to say that for answers up here that say, oh, we're going to find the fraud and the waste and that's how we're going to pay for programs, we have a 20% vacancy rate downtown, and that's why we have to grow DC and bring the companies back in to our city.
Well, speaking of companies, sure, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Mr. McDuffie.
Sure. The lottery program that Ms. Lewis-George was talking about was actually something pushed by Jack Evans, so she has her facts wrong, or maybe she just doesn't care about the facts. I'll tell you some facts. She's the one who has pushed divesting from the police officer, but yet today she talks about what she's going to do to support the police. I would ask everybody who's voting in this election to check what people say as candidates versus what they've actually done as a council member. And what you'll see is I've delivered for residents consistently when it comes to safety, economic opportunity, and making sure this city works for more people.
Ms. Georgeson, yes.
My colleague was chair of business and economic development, which oversaw the sports betting contract, and he was one of the decisive votes on supporting that sports betting contract. And that sports betting contract ended up costing the district millions of dollars and did not even operate on the biggest day of sports in the year, Super Bowl Sunday. And that contract ended up in a federal affairs investigation because that contract was tied to individuals in this council and their family members. And so, yes, that isn't quite a fact that ending waste and corruption could be saving us dollars as district residents. And it is a fact that since I've been on the council the last 6 years, MPD has been funded, and I even earmarked funding to 4th District to make sure
Thank you, Ms. George. So let me just say thank you. I love this dialogue that's going on, but I can't keep it going, but so much.
Thank you.
But I want Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If you want to hear this procedural dialogue for 4 more years, then go ahead on and
you're wasting your time, Mr. Johnson.
Okay. Mr. Johnson. But bottom line of it is that we seriously have to address the issue of the lobbyists and developers that have a grip on our city. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do as your next mayor is I'm not going to fund Sanctuary City. I cannot, in good conscience, continue to fund Sanctuary Cities. We are putting up people in hotels at $250 a night, where I've seen black people die on the waiting list for affordable housing. It's 26 years of leadership between these two. Anything they talk about they could have done, they could have done.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. So
she called my name.
She did. She did.
So I get an opportunity to rebut.
Well, we're going to go back and forth, and I don't really want to go back and forth right now. I want to kind of move forward. So
Yeah,
if
let's
we
go to the
can,
next issue.
yes, if we can, I would like to do that. Because everyone's talked about small businesses. And small businesses, we talked about some things that you all would like to do to support small businesses, particularly those that are located east of the river, Ward 7 and 8. So, Ms. George, if you would just start with telling us what kind of opportunities would you create for small businesses? And a yes or no answer, do you think that the city should provide more direct financial support for small businesses? So
I absolutely do think the city should provide more financial support to our small businesses. I think we need to streamline processes because many of our small businesses in Ward 4, I have watched them take 2 years to get permits or licensing or just basic things that would actually grow their business, like opening a patio or having a top roof that they could activate. So I want to see us streamline those processes and have one agency tied to our small businesses. I want us to do more backdoor support for younger businesses and entrepreneurs so they don't have to pay large fees and attorneys and accountants, which take up their budget, and teach them how to do responsible payroll so they don't have to worry about wage theft. But I also want to open the doors to some of these vacant and blighted buildings we have across the district to young entrepreneurs to be able to have spaces where artists, entrepreneurs, studio musicians, and many of our people who can have ghost kitchens to be able to start their business and then end up in brick and mortar.
Thank you,
That's
Ms.
how we
George.
create
Mr. Goodweather?
opportunity for our small businesses. Thank you.
Mr. Goodweather.
The answer is yes. We need to be investing directly in our residents and in our small businesses. How we do it is we're going to create a venture fund that provides not just the dollars to be able to start a business and to continue the business, but mentorship and including how to run it so it can be sustainable as well. As an employer here in the city and as someone that owns real estate here in the city and apartments, I will say that DC treats its business owners like villains. It treats us more with penalties than promoting us. And I think that that is one of the biggest things that we are going to change is we are going to make it easier to do business in Washington, D.C.
Mr. Johnson?
Well, they don't treat all of their business people bad. That is the reason why the Public Service Commission was sued by the Office of the People's Counsel. And the Court of Appeal upheld that the PEPCO rate increases were really unreasonable and erroneous and that taxpayers are due a refund. I am calling for the resignation of the Public Service Commissioners. I would like my colleagues on the council to join me in that. Both of these council members voted to appoint both of these utility lobbyists to the Public Service Commission, which was a grave error that is increasing our utility bills. I'm calling on everyone on this panel to request the resignation of the Public Service Commissioners who are supposed to protect the residents.
Mr. McDuffie? Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
DC can't continue to be a one-sector city. We can't continue to be a sleepy government town. We have to grow our economy and we have to diversify our economy. And the way you do that is by investing in businesses that create jobs. And I'm not just telling you that because I'm running for mayor. I'm telling you what I've done as chair of the Committee on Business and Economic Development, where we've invested in small businesses across the District of Columbia, including in main streets across the District of Columbia, with an emphasis on what more we need to do in Wards 7 and 8 east of the river to make sure that they have neighborhood serving amenities and retail that they can lean on to. We want to make sure that we do that, but we have to be able to make it easier to start and grow a business in the District of Columbia if we want to be able to make those investments and create the jobs that would accompany them. I've been experienced being able to do that as a council member, and I'll do that as the next mayor of the District.
Thank you. Mr. Orange?
I am the champion of small businesses. When Chairperson Linda Kropp made me the chair of the Committee on Government Operations, I saw that our certified business enterprises were not getting their share of the expendable budget. The only agency that was in compliance was the Office of Aging. I took it from $0 being spent with CBEs to $481 million in 5 years. Thereafter, I got with Mayor Bowser and Anna Harvey, we created the Green Book. The Green Book then took it up to about $1 billion. I got with Marion Barry, had a rally, got the Inspector General to certify that would shortchange $1 billion. And here late, the mayor just announced for fiscal year 2026, there will be $1.5 billion spent with our CBEs. And as mayor in fiscal year 2027, I will spend $2 billion with our certified business enterprise community. And those dollars will circulate in the District of Columbia.
Sampath.
I already spoke about permits, so I want to go into the topic of financial assistance for these businesses. I've talked to a number of business owners. One of them, who is in Ward 7, and told me that construction is one of these things. If the city decides to do anything construction related in front of his storefront, he loses foot traffic and immediately loses revenue. And so in these type of instances, we need to make sure we're supporting our business owners with the type of boost and uplift that we need to provide them to make up for what we might be causing trouble in their business. But one of the big concerns is the RFK Stadium. The RFK Stadium never came with a true equity plan, and we need to make sure that's happening. And lastly, I learned that some businesses don't want to even lease to small businesses, and they're waiting to make sure that they can lease to a VC-backed firm or a large chain, and that's got to end.
Thanks, Ms. Solomon.
I've spoken about the business improvement districts, and here I go again. I'm a small business that's in a bid, and there is very little oversight and accountability. It's also, the board is mostly comprised of developers and the big money, and the small businesses don't always get an even say. So as mayor, I would make every board 50-50 so that small businesses have a voice, they have control over the budget, and that is how I would help to fund and make sure that these small businesses have resources. I also helped to found the Main Street in the neighborhood that my small business is in, because we need extra resources. And to all the small businesses owners out there, start a Main Street if you don't have one already. It's a great program.
I'm glad that all of you all are here, but the time is precious right now. We're kind of running out of time, and in a few minutes I'm going to do some yes/no answers, questions rather. But a couple of things I did want to get in first, and one is what is your concrete plan to lower housing costs for working families in the district? Yes, starting with you, Ms.
Okay. When I look at affordable housing and I look at, we hear build, build, build. It's like a turnkey. We need to keep people in our city. We need to keep the working families in our city. And then my brain goes to affordable housing, and it goes to small landlord buildings with less than 5 units. And why are they not bringing units online? Sometimes it's permitting, sometimes it's maintenance. And so when I think of the permitting crisis we are in right now, as mayor, day one, I'm going to do a lot on day one, but day one, no permit's going to sit for more than 10 days without moving forward, getting denied, or getting escalated. So that's how I'm going to solve that.
Ms. Amber?
There's 3 things we need to do. We need to build more while we are leasing our units up far quickly. I mentioned the statistic at the start. It takes 13 months on average to fill an affordable housing unit in DC. And then lastly, we need to make sure that our renters are protected. I think there's sometimes a false narrative out there that we can't build more and also protect renters because renter protections are going to somehow end the YIMBYism. That's just not true, and we should be able to center our renters in this entire conversation of lowering costs. On top of that, I want to make sure that we create opportunities for people to access the wealth in the city to be able to actually buy a home. So at the end of the day, if we create job opportunities, we make sure that our residents have more access to wealth, we're going to be able to bring our lower costs down for them to purchase a home here.
Mr. Orange?
Yes, we start putting $100 million a year in the Housing Production Trust Fund back in my first term as Ward 5 council member, and put more dollars in when I was an at-large member. Without raising taxes, I'm going to take that $100 million and I'm going to build 1,000 units right away, and I'm going to have them built by certified business enterprises so that $100 million circulate here in the city. Those 1,000 units will be for our first responders, they will be for seniors, and they will be for minimum wage workers, which I start the minimum wage, as well as graduates from our colleges. And they will be $75,000 each, and they will be 600 square feet with a kitchen, living room, bedroom, kitchen, and ready for us to move forward and show what we can do with a housing production trust fund.
Mr. McDuffie.
Every resident deserves to live in safe, affordable home across the District of Columbia. And we have to build more housing, and we have to do it faster. I'm going to be bolder when it comes to our comprehensive plan, making sure we address the zoning issues, making sure we address the regulatory hurdles that make it more expensive and slow down the process of building the housing that we actually need across incomes. We're going to make sure we do that. We're also going to make sure that we are focusing on my plan, which is realistic and something that I'm going to execute on day one. That's going to build 12,000 units of housing, preserve 20,000 units of existing housing, and build 1,500 units of family-sized housing so we can have families be able to stay in the District of Columbia as well. I want to note, though, the Washington Post called my opponent's plan to build 72,000 units of housing unrealistic and a fantasy.
Thank you, Mr. McDuffie. Mr.
Oh my goodness gracious,
Johnson.
we've heard this for a decade. The same thing over and over and over. Let's get to the point. No more lobbyists, no more developers. Can you just say that? My plan is to use nonprofit organizations. We can use our certified minority contractors. I know, Vince, you've been listening to some of my speeches. I see you use some of my material. We're also going to use some of the high school vocational training students as well. We can do this. We can do this without developers and lobbyists. Once you put money into their hands, it goes everywhere. We can look at HD Cook, the $18 million that was spent over there. They brought everybody in from Ohio. They're not hiring our residents, and they're not on it. And the reason because nobody is following up to hold them accountable. Nobody follows up on hiring or affordable housing agreements.
I love hearing all of my colleagues talk about building housing, and I'm the only one that's done it. I know how to do it. It is what I have done for the past 30 years. And I know how to do it in a way that we are creating housing to bring down the cost for both owners of homes, of apartment buildings, and for tenants. And it is not just about being able to build more. Yes, I'm gonna build 50,000 more multi-generational homes by 2032 in my administration. But it is, our city has been redlined from capital, and I know I've only got 8 seconds left, but take a look at how we're going to do it on my website, because we are putting out all of our solutions and how to do it.
Ms. George.
Thank you. It's so important in this city where so many residents, Black residents specifically, have been displaced, including family members of my own and my family, for us to be able to afford to live here, which is why we need a mayor who's ready to meet this crisis and this moment. My plan is to build more, build better, and also build near transit. It also is to help protect our tenants. So we're going to stabilize and modernize rent stabilization so tenants have predictable housing and housing providers have clear guidelines. We're going to increase the down payments and support for HPAP and EPAP by leveraging federal dollars. We're going to build more homes by allowing outdated zoning restrictions as well as reducing delays and red tape for people who are building. We as a district are going to stand up and build the deeply affordable housing that we need because we can't rely on the market to do so.
Okay.
Ms. Rock, a rebuttal.
And I didn't get a chance for rebuttal, but
Yeah, we've got transportation, a couple of other issues, and we've got about 8 minutes left, and I know you want your minute closing, right? So let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay.
This is very important.
So,
It's about housing.
Yes.
Ms. George, quick question, and I'm going to ask all of you all, yes or no answer, please. Do you support expanding bus lanes?
Yes.
Do you support more traffic enforcement cameras?
No.
Okay. And what about reduced parking to make way for bike lanes?
Yes.
Okay. Same thing. Mr. Goodweather, more bus lanes?
Done well, yes.
Okay. And more enforcement cameras?
Everybody's got to play by the same rules. If we're gonna have traffic.
Yes, no, please. Yes, no.
No.
Okay, and then reduced parking to make way for bike lanes.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Have a mayor that makes decision. No, no, no.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McDuffie.
You should be able to get anywhere in DC with or without a car, and you're not going to ticket your way to Vision Zero.
Okay.
You have to invest in it and make sure that you're doing it in a way that's equitable.
More bus lanes?
I'm for speed cameras when it prioritizes safety, not revenue on the backs.
Okay, and reduce, what about parking for bike lanes?
I support bike lanes, I support bus lanes, I support getting in and out of the city.
Thank you.
With
Mr.
or without a
Orange?
car.
Mr. Orange?
No, no, and no.
Okay, Ms. Sampath?
Yes to bike lanes, no to speed cameras, and yes to bus lanes.
Okay, and Ms. Solomon?
Yes to buses, everyone should have access to that. No to cameras, and I'm going to say we need parking for the business communities to thrive.
Okay, thank you.
We don't love yes or no questions.
I know you don't, I know you don't. On the issue of education, Ms. Solomon, I'll start with you. Should we be funding, should funding for public schools be increased or a tighter budget?
Oh, increased? I went to DC Public Schools.
Increased or not? Increased funding for public schools?
Increased.
Okay, Ms.
Oh, this
Sampad?
is a yes or no?
It's
Yes,
just
no?
a yes,
Okay.
yes. We're doing yes or no for 2 more minutes. Go ahead, Ms. Sampad.
Yes, and use them effectively.
Okay, Mr.
Yes.
Orange? Okay, Ms. McDuffie?
Yes, and
Okay.
equitable, more equitable.
Mr. Johnson?
No, we spent $1 billion already.
Okay.
More than $1 billion.
Yes to the operating budget, no to the capital budget.
And Ms. George?
Yes.
And what about charter schools? Do you think that they need to be, needs to be more funding for charter schools?
I believe that, yes, they need to be funded.
Mr.
Do they need it, I'm sorry, do they need?
More funding, increased funding for charter schools?
Their public schools, yes.
No.
Yes, and they should get the funding that's required of them by the law, too.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes to equal funding, yes.
Yes, equal funding.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, the elephant in the room for many of us is the relationship between the District of Columbia and Congress. What would be, and this is not a yes or no answer, this is an answer, right? Okay, so we'll start with you, Ms. Solomon. What would be your strategy for navigating the district's relationship with Congress while protecting local priorities?
So I'm going to say personality. We need somebody who's fearless to be the mayor of the District of Columbia because there's going to be a lot of negotiating. So having that personality and that acumen to be able to walk into the White House and talk to our favorite guy there, and also in Congress. I've worked on the Hill. I've had experience negotiating up there with a lot of the members, and also I've worked national security, so having those difficult conversations with executives.
Do you support statehood?
Of course I do. Am I a
Ms.
Washingtonian?
Ms. Sampson. That's the second part to that question. Ms. Sampson.
I think you need a mayor who's creative and who's a strategist at the end of the day, because we've been fighting for statehood and unfortunately it hasn't happened, and I think there needs to be creative new measures to make it happen. We know for a fact that if we were able to get the entire Democratic Party actually bought in on statehood, we might be in a different position. That's not what's happened so far. I don't think Democratic Congress people or governors or others, even in our own party, believe in statehood for DC, and that's got to be mission number one. And so as mayor, I'm going to make sure that we have a concerted campaign that includes influencers, that includes other leaders, to really push statehood on the radar of those who have the power within our party to bring that to the forefront.
In the words of John F. Kennedy, for President Trump and Congress, I will not negotiate in fear, yet I will not fear to negotiate. I will let them know right off the top what's non-negotiable. Home rule is non-negotiable. DC autonomy is non-negotiable. And the pursuit of statehood is non-negotiable. But also tonight, I want to give credit to Eleanor Holmes Norton, our warrior on the Hill, who took statehood to the 1-inch line. And it was Democrats that let us down. The Democrat from West Virginia and the Democrat from Arizona. It was lined up for Kamala Harris to break the tie. It was supposed to be 50-50, and Biden was ready to sign the legislation. We did ourselves in. The same way we did ourselves in when Jimmy Carter was president. It's Democrats who have been stopping us from becoming a state.
Mr. McDuffie.
I'm going to work with the federal government where possible and fight back where necessary. I worked for Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. It's my first job out of Howard University, and I saw firsthand how you fight to protect home rule and how you advocate for statehood. I'm going to do that as mayor. I'm going to end cooperation between the Metropolitan Police Department and ICE, because I'm going to make sure that we have fairness and justice embedded in our policing. But I'm going to make sure we work on projects like RFK, and I'm going to work with the federal government to expand Union Station, create thousands of jobs and thousands of neighborhood-serving amenities for people across the District of Columbia and visitors to the District of Columbia, so we can grow our economy in a way that's smart and it benefits Washingtonians.
Mr. Johnson.
I asked this question last night at a forum. If your reputation doesn't enter the room before you, you've already lost the fight when you're talking about dealing with the President of the United States and Congress. That's why we have the type of relationship that we have now. In terms of, and Kenya mentioned the RFK redevelopment, that gives me an opportunity to point out that $1.3 billion agreement that they agreed for some jobs and some housing in the future. I'm going to revoke that agreement, renegotiate it. You as taxpayers are going to own 26% of the team. We're going to vow the minority owners, and we're going to have a real seat at the table. We're going to have a tag-along agreement, so if the team is sold in the future, you will own 26% of the team, and you will get that value back.
Thanks for answering my question, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Goodweather, thank you.
It's all about the money. We talk about our budget, and one of the most important pieces to this, to be able to get more for our residents, get more for our city, is our budget. As I mentioned, if we breach any of the 7 deadly sins, number one being our financial covenants, then we invite back in more interference in our government. But the federal government is also our partner. And we are not, as Washingtonians, getting the federal dollars that we deserve. And that is because we have not created a local government that makes it easy to do business here. So if we want to get more from the federal government, we need a competent local government to invite it in.
Thank you, Mr. Goodweather. Ms. George.
Thank you. As a daughter of the district, I've been fighting for statehood my whole life, and I know how important it is for us to preserve our statehood and our autonomy. My plan is this. We're going to use every legal tool we have to fight back. As the former Attorney General, I'm going to work with Attorney General Brian Schwab to use every legal tool we can and have to fight back against this administration. I was the only council member in court with Eleanor Holmes Norton and Brian when we fought back when they tried to take our chief of police over, and we won because we used our legal tools. We're going to build relationships in Congress. I've been walking the halls of Congress myself, building relationships in the House and Senate to make sure that we are filibuster proof. And my executive office as the mayor will have a federal affairs office tasked with building those relationships, because that's the groundwork we're going to need to build statehood. And you can trust that I'm going to stand up for DC residents, because unlike my opponent, Mr. McDuffie, I'm not taking big Trump donor dollars.
Thank you, Ms. George. So we're going to, because we are over now. We're over.
If she calls my name, can I rebut as well?
Somebody call my name.
Call my name. Come on, Janice. Call my name.
So I'm gonna ask the timekeeper, because we're over. I'm gonna ask the timekeeper to. This is my last final question, and before you give your closing remarks, I'm gonna ask her if they can change the time for 20 seconds. For your answer, okay, as opposed to 45. And the question is, and I'll start with you, Ms. George, trust in government is earned.
Yes.
What will you do consistently and visibly to ensure that DC residents feel seen, heard, and respected by their mayor? Quickly, what would you do?
Thank you. I'm going to communicate. I was one of the first council members actually to create a weekly newsletter for Ward 4 residents, because I felt like we didn't have enough transparency from our residents. And that weekly newsletter is something that's spread across the council because people realized how important it was. I'm going to show up, because it's more important to show up on the ground when residents are going through things. And because when you show up and you talk to residents and you talk to the people doing the work, that's how you get to solutions.
Thank you. Mr. Goodweather?
I'm going to create an Office of Inclusion that reports directly to me. I'm going to lift the Office of the ANC out of council's hands and make it directly as part of the Office of Inclusion so that I have direct line of communication to DC residents and vice versa. And this is a 7-day-a-week job. My commitment is to give it 100%, and I will be in the office as little as possible.
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I've worked for two previous presidents, President Richard Nixon as well as President Jimmy Carter and the late Mayor Marion Barry. One of the things that I'm going to do as your next mayor, we're going to have open house every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2 o'clock. You don't need an appointment, just come on down and see me. There's too much isolation once these people get in office, and that's the thing that I want to eliminate.
Mr. McDuffie?
As council member, I authored comprehensive campaign finance reform and comprehensive ethics reform to make sure that elected officials hold themselves to the highest ethics standards, and I'm going to continue to do that as mayor. I'm going to make sure that we have an open door policy, but also everything is going to be put online in a publicly accessible database and accountability dashboard so that you know exactly what's happening and how your tax dollars are being spent.
Thank you, Mr. Orange.
Yes, I am the most capable, accomplished, trusted candidate on this platform tonight. And residents can go out and touch what I delivered, and they can know if I said I'm going to get it done, it's going to get done. They wanted retail, I brought them Costco, Home Depot. They wanted McKinley open, I reopened it as McKinley Technology High School. They wanted to increase minimum wage, I increased minimum wage. They wanted to know about their history, I created DC Emancipation Day holiday.
Thank you, Mr.
I delivered.
Orange. Ms. Sampath.
If trash doesn't get picked up in the city and we have rampant rat problems, snow removal doesn't happen, and the basics aren't fixed, we have a service delivery issue. And residents are going to be able to trust us as government when we actually deliver on basic municipal promises. That's why we already redesigned the 311 app. We built a tax dashboard. We built a small business permitting concierge. And this is how we're going to show folks through innovation.
Ms. Solomon.
Job creation in the mayor's office. How many times have we called down, you get a moker on the phone, and you as the resident have to manage your own project to make sure that it's finished. So we got a lot of Doge people out there. I'm one of them. Hire them in. Create the office of mokers extra, right? Have them following everything through to the end and finish the job.
Thank you. Okay, we're at this closing point in our discussion this evening, our forum, and so I'm going to give each one of you all a minute to give your closing remarks. I'm glad you're still smiling. I'll start with you, Ms. Solomon, and we will make our way to the end.
All right, this is why I'm running. Does this city work for you? And if the answer is no, that is why I'm running. We feel like we're doing everything right, and as a small business owner, you feel like you're paying your taxes and you're paying, the bid taxes, you're getting triple taxed, and you think, why am I doing all this? Why can't the city be efficient? Why can't I make a phone call and get your trash picked up? And when we're fighting rats, why can't the rat holes get filled? No more rats. So if you're out there saying, no, the city isn't working for me right now, I grew up here, I went to DC Public, I went to school here, I was raised in my family's business, and I worked in national security for 17 years. You want to talk about accountability in the FBI and DOD and Homeland Security? I ask you to go to hopefordc.com, learn more about me, and maybe I'll be your next mayor. Thank you.
Ms. Sampath.
Yeah, my name is Rainey Sampath. I moved to the United States when I was 7 years old, and I am here because I want to make sure the American dream works for every single person in Washington. And right now it's not. We know this because of the many ways in which Washington, D.C. government has failed us, that career politicians have failed us, and it's time for someone new. And so if you believe that an innovative, energetic, data-driven government is going to make your lives easier, we've already been showing you that that's exactly what we're here to do with every new innovation that we have released over the course of the campaign. We really encourage Washingtonians to go visit our website. It's RiniForMayor.com, R-I-N-I for mayor, and you'll see the various apps that we've built, the policy positions that we've put forward, because we believe it's possible to both be progressive and also care about the many ways in which businesses function in the city, that we take care of our economy. And I want, at the end of the day, for our party to be the party of execution. The mayor's office is not a legislative office, it's an executive's office. That's who I am, and I'm asking for your vote.
Mr. Orange.
DC voters, I'm Vincent Orange. VO on the ballot, number 7, Heavenly 7 on the ballot. So when you get to the ballot, go all the way down to number 7. Check out everybody else, but go to number 7 and vote for Vincent Orange. I bring knowledge, institutional knowledge, experience, stability, and delivery. And I've launched VO Grace AI. You want to have a dialogue, please call 202-858-1199 and ask Grace AI, VO Grace AI, any question, and you can have a dialogue. If that doesn't work for you, then go to orangeformayor.com and we will have a conversation with you as well. I deliver. You can feel and touch Vincent Orange yourself. Go to Home Depot, go to Giant, go to Costco, go to McKinney Technology High School. Ask our children, are they getting their books each year by the second week of school? You've been celebrating DC Emancipation Day for 21 years now. There's been no crime at any of those emancipation celebrations.
Thank you.
Vincent Orange, number 1 in your heart, then number 7 on your ballot.
Mr. McDuffie. Mr. McDuffie.
I want to thank the Board of Elections, Fair Elections Office, and you, Denise, for hosting this. There's been a lot of lies told. I would just encourage voters to please check the record. There's been a lot of things said that simply aren't true, but a lot of those things have been said about me. And usually when you have a candidate making up things and saying falsehoods, it's because you're doing something right. I've been working really hard for the last 13 years as a servant of the District of Columbia. I'm not running on empty promises. I'm not running on a Democratic Socialist out of New York playbook. I'm running to be mayor of Washington, D.C. I'm running to protect our home rule. I'm running to keep you safe. I'm running to build more affordable housing. And I'm running to build an economy that works for everybody. I'm going to show up just like I have every single day as a council member. So if you believe in a city that can be great, if you believe in accountability, if you believe in independent thinking elected officials, then I'm asking for your vote. We're going to move this city together in a way that transforms the future of the District of Columbia. Number one on your ballot. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Between Vincent Owens, Kenny McDuffie, and Janice is 40 years of experience. That's what we have now. If you want to stick with the status quo, go with the status quo. It's time for dramatic change. I call for the resignation of the public service commissioners. Did you hear any of them chime in? If you're afraid of special interests, you cannot run the city. This is a job that requires public courage. There is a $2 billion lead pipe replacement program. Both of them voted for. It came in as a backdoor rate increase. That's why your water bills went up. I'm going to revoke that, get a $500 million pilot grant from EPA. We need lead pipe replacement, but we don't need our taxpayers paying for it. If you cannot stand up to developers and lobbyists, stop saying what you're going to do in the District of Columbia. It's just not fair. We have too many issues. We cannot continue the course that we're on, and we definitely cannot go backwards.
Mr. Goodweather.
I started this campaign 15 months ago, and I was a no name, although I do think I've got a fantastic last name. But I have spent the past 15 months listening and learning with as many DC residents and businesses I possibly can. And I continue to hear the same things over and over again, that DC just isn't working for them, whether it's trying to get a permit or snow removal or rats taking over our alleys. And I recognize that we need to expect more from our city government, from our city services. June 16th is the election. I am asking for your first ranking, but I also want you to be enfranchised in this election. If you are not a Democrat, you have been disenfranchised. About 10% of our residents are independent, aren't allowed to be really a part of the process. Become a Democrat for a day. Go back and change your party.
Thank you, Mr.
Use the
Goodweather.
system to your advantage.
All right. And Ms. George.
Thank you. Thank you, DC residents. It is my honor as a daughter of the district to be running for mayor in the city that raised me. And this city that raised me taught me that we look out for our seniors, that we take care of our youth, and that we fight for working people and working families. And we know that the strongest cities are ones that take care of their people. I believe in this election, it's about who do you trust to actually show up and fight for you. And I submit to you that I have been showing up and fighting for the last 6 years to make sure this city is more affordable. And that's why addressing the housing crisis is going to happen under my administration. And you can trust me because I have been fighting. When they tried to raise our rent hikes for seniors and tenants, I fought hard against it. I made sure that people in our community who had slumlords who were up against them, that they got the enforcement and support they needed. You can trust me to stand up to Trump because I have been walking the halls of Congress myself. And you can trust me to deal with the rat issues too, because I've introduced legislation and executed on it to make sure that our trash and our streets were safe. And I look forward to a people first city with you. Thank you.
All righty. I want to personally thank all of you all. I thought about it the other day, and one of you will be the 7th mayor of the District of Columbia.
Yeah, that's me.
Actually, it's the 8th.
Well, one was elected twice.
It's
still 8? All right, thanks for correcting me. That's a historical moment that I think we need to share. You'll be the 8th, but still, in almost a century. So, the job that you're doing in running won't be as hard as it'll be when you become mayor, but it's tough. And I think the city wants to thank you all for your sincere desire to serve. And so that was Denise talking here. I'm going back to my script now. But thank you to all of our candidates for a thoughtful and substantive discussion this evening. And I want to thank the audience that's here and those watching across the district for taking the time to stay informed and engaged. Debates like this are an essential part of our democratic process, even if you only get 45 seconds to answer, and giving voters the opportunity to hear directly from those seeking to lead our city and to better understand the choices ahead. As a reminder of important upcoming dates, ballots will be mailed beginning May 11th. Early voting will take place June 8th through June 14th. And the primary election, as we've heard 7 times this evening, will be held on June 16th. We encourage all residents to stay engaged, continue learning about the candidates, and most importantly, make your voice heard. On behalf of the District of Columbia's Fair Elections Program and the DC Office of Campaign Finance, thank you for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.
Thank you.